Yeah, I guess we do. Hi.
We're going to hop into our first topic, and it is the hot gaming topic going on right now everywhere.
I think it's a gaping.
It is gaping.
Oh,
It is gaping. It's a gaping universe. Starfield. Our early impression. Starfield is out now, and not just early access. It's available for everybody.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah.
On Xbox and PC. And Tone, I spent close to 36 hours on this game in its first weekend.
Yeah.
I have played a lot of fucking Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've got to the point where I played enough where I think we can talk about it. And I know you played to a decent amount until fucking Baldur's Gate ruined that for everybody. But, no, man, I just want to, first of all, there was a lot of stuff that was going on with Starfield even before it came out. There was a lot of, especially that last week or two when some of the influencers out there that got codes, all of a sudden there was a lot of leaks on Reddit and people pushing out all these different narratives that the traveling is lame and there was a lot of bullshit going on, and then you had goofballs from both sides. One group saying, "Oh, this game is trash," and the group on the other side, "Oh, it's game of the generation." I'm just like, neither of you fucking people have played this game. Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of discourse, a lot of bullshit going on prior to its launch, which is to be expected. It always seems to be the case when it comes to exclusives. But this one even more so because, by all accounts, this is like the biggest Xbox launch in probably a decade. I mean, it's probably one of their most important launches in the Game Pass era.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot riding on this for Xbox, and there was a lot of shit going on leading up to it. But then the reviews came out the day before the game came out. It's currently sitting at an 86 on Metacritic, which isn't terrible. I think there was a lot of us that kind of expected it to be a little bit higher, considering there was all this buzz about it, but there wasn't a whole lot of previews. No one really kind of knew what this game was. I mean, everyone kind of guessed oh, it's just No Man's Sky on a grander scale and better graphics or whatever you want to say. Everyone kind of had their ideas of what it could be. But the reviews came out. Reviews are solid. They're very strong. 86 on Metacritic. I think it's like an 87 or 88 on OpenCritic.
That's a good game.
It is a little bit lower than some of their bigger titles, more well-received titles. I think Fallout 3 was like the 93. Skyrim was a 92. And I think even Fallout 4 was like in the 88 range. So it's a little bit lower, but I mean, that's still... I use lower very loosely there.
Yeah.
Obviously, an 86 is a well-received game.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people spoke very highly of it. A lot of the reviews, I mean, there were some massive reviews, like 3,500-word reviews. You're just like, fuck it, a lot of stuff. Now, that's the thing, man. When I saw there were some, I think it might have been Kind of Funny Games, we have a 2-hour discussion, a 2-hour review. I'm like, look, man, I like some of you guys. I ain't watching a fucking 2-hour discussion on Starfield review. 2.5 hours? No, bro. You and I are going to talk about this for about 20 minutes. That's going to be more than enough. I just felt like that stuff was overkill. I can't even watch it if I wanted to. So it dropped. We've sunk some time into it. Tone, I know as somebody who is, you don't hate Bethesda games, but you are critical of them only because you were born on different, more Eastern RPGs.
Well, I feel like my openly and I'm pretty open about my critiques of them is from my experience of playing them as well too. It's not me just saying, hey, this Bethesda game stuck and I've never played it, right?
Right.
It's from playing Bethesda games as well.
Sure.
And yes, I am very openly critical of them because I do feel that there is a level of them where people that are fans of them, and this is by far not the only developer, publisher, whatever series that people do this with, where they get their blinders on because they love it so much that they can't criticize or critique it, right? I just have, listen, I always say when I bought the collector's edition for Skyrim in 2011, because I was ready for this epic tale and was still blown away by. I mean, I only put 110 hours into that first playthrough. I always say that I put a lot of time into it. I really enjoyed my playthrough, and I played it on PC even, and it was a great game. I had a blast with it. I always tell everybody that, and I was really high too, but I'll never forget the first time I got to Alduin, and he was having a conversation with me, and I was so just blitzed out of my mind. It's like, there's a fucking dragon talking to me. This is the coolest thing in the world, right? And so I've got some great stories from play that through that playthrough, whatever. But the fact that they've put it out on every console and blah blah blah, and just keep rehashing this so that it's like what Rockstar's doing too, which I also have a problem with. But that being said, yeah, I'm very openly not a fan of Fallouts. I love the Fallout world. I like the aesthetic. I think the concept of it's really awesome. Like, but when you play a Fallout game, I'd rather fist myself because I don't like the controls. I hate the VAT
system.
Right. But this took like the third person that I wanted, like the third person shooting that I wanted in those games, or the first person for that matter, which I appreciate. I can do either.
Yes.
You know, and finally,
and it doesn't feel cheap. Like it feels like it really plays well as a third person shooter.
Even at 30 frames per second, which is one of my small critiques on console. I knew that. I forgot that, but you know, it still feels fluid. It's a little loosey goosey sometimes, but that's like.
I feel like that's just Bethesda gameplay.
And that's just critiquing the critique. Like that's not like
you mentioned, and I just want to mention, like you mentioned the VAT system in Fallout 4 and Fallout 3 and the Fallout games in general. I do feel like the VAT system was put in place because the gunplay hasn't always been solid in those games. It's there as kind of a crutch. Because it is those games did not have great gunplay if you played it just like a first person shooter. Like the VAT system was there to kind of like cover that up a little bit, to make it more RPG like turn based. You know, set this up so kind of like mask it a little bit. Yeah. But like I feel like and I think it's what you're getting at here. Like this game just feels better in terms of first person shooter. And I agree. Like when I play this, I actually feel like it's a pretty accurate game. Like it feels like they have really smoothed over their gun gameplay.
I've been trying to play it mostly in third person. I feel like that's tough, and I don't like first person storytelling games a whole lot. It's really tough for me.
Sure,
there's only a few that I can get down on, and just because I love third person so much, anyways, and I'm trying to like try to do that more. But I just like seeing my character.
I just hate how you can't switch shoulders in this game.
That's probably my biggest complaint of the combat period. Like I'm from Gears time frame. Like you know what I mean? Like I want to flip my shoulder or whatever around
going around corners and shit.
Yeah, you know, so you can't really do that. But as soon as I jumped into this game, like and I'll tell the long part kind of first. Like to me, this game overall is No Man's Sky with Mass Effect.
Sure, I think that's accurate.
And as somebody put a lot of fucking time in No Man's Sky, and probably not as much into Mass Effect as a lot of people, but that's that's not a bad thing at all. That's literally just like two good games being mashed together, because I put a lot of time in No Man's Sky throughout the years. Instantly when I'm into this game and you're kind of going through the stuff and you're kicking it off, I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. Like it felt like I was drawn in. It felt pretty epic. It was a good way to start. You know, you get to like I said, when you get to the crew at the Constellation, you start talking to them. I'm like, oh, this is fucking neat. Like I'm instantly drawn into the dialogue, right?
Right.
I like slower burn, and I like good dialogue, and I feel like it rides the line to where I can see it would bore people and they just want to push fast through it. But like I'm into that kind of thing. Like I like the slow dialogue. I like the extra. Like I'll go through all the options to hear them and things in that nature, and I do enjoy that. I'll say when I first jumped into a ship to fly it is when I was like, oh shit, like this game is going to be potentially a problem for me. And keep in mind, like I started, like this was Thursday night, of course, and I was already drinking, of course. But you know, I was like, I was to the point where I was already buzzed really well enough. Like I'm like, I don't know what I'm fucking doing, but I could tell this is going to be something I like. And for certain, like just by looking at it and playing a little bit of that, and like there's even a mission like early on where you gotta creep and lower your engines and fly. I'm like, man, this is fucking cool. Like,
yeah, that was. I know exactly. I like that. I thought that was pretty sweet. Like, give some tactics to it.
Right, you could go in there guns blazing, and at that low level, you probably either get blown up or maybe you could handle it. But
so when you had to go to that satellite thing,
but I'm like, I liked that because it felt like it gave you an option, or it felt just different. Because a lot of those games in that kind of stuff, like if you're playing Battlefront 2, you're going guns blazing, right? You know. So that was really good. So, you know, again, getting to another planet, getting to the next mission, I was kind of mostly following the main storyline. I did a couple offshoots, but I felt like I really wanted to focus on it because I knew the game's big, and I know a lot of that stuff I can come back to. I wasn't worried about the exploration first. I had told you this because I feel like I'm low level to the point where none of that's going to fucking matter. Like, I want to get through the main story, get some of the goodies, and then do maybe some of the exploring. So that was kind of my goal, which for me is rare. Typically, I go left or right, and then I go forward, right? But I could already tell just by the time I got through most of the day on Friday, and I sat, keep in mind, I started playing on Friday. I played a little bit in the morning for about 2 hours, had lunch, got my case of beer, played from 1:30, maybe had a half-hour break in there somewhere, and stopped playing it at like midnight 30. Like I played it for like, I sat there for like 9 or 10 hours mostly throughout the evening playing that. And I was like, good with that. Like I was that made me show that I was drawn into it. And again, it's a developer who I'm usually pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Not that I don't like, I just critique, or I have my issues with, right? I will say one of the biggest issues that I still have, and instantly, and I'll always have this problem with a lot of games. Bethesda's not the only one, but Bethesda is the worst one to navigate. Inventory management.
Oh my god, the encumbrance
You motherfuckers
system.
need to knock this shit off. Like, don't give me the option to pick up everything in the world and think that I'm not, but then make me manage it. Especially like, listen, I kind of can get it in Skyrim because it's medieval and you're fucking wearing leather fucking undies and you can barely carry. But when you're in fucking year 2442.3 in the future, and I'm on a planet with half gravity, don't tell me this thing weighs fucking 8 pounds. That's fucking, that doesn't even make sense to me. Like, it's the dumbest shit ever. Like, I don't know, put it in a fucking magical black hole bag or something like that. Like, there's got to be better options to that. Like, it's 2023, guys. We can do better than that shit. So, holy smokes.
Was that thunder?
Yeah, I saw we had a warning coming through.
Yeah, storm coming through.
Yeah, thunder rolls. But long story short, I would have kept playing this game all weekend, which was my original plan.
It was.
My original plan was to play this for 3 or 4 days straight. I called it piece of shit weekend. I didn't plan any Labor Day travels. We did end up going to have lunch on Sunday, which was just to get a break for 3.5 hours, which was a great idea. But my goal was to play this pretty much all weekend. And I wish I still would have, truth be told, but it was not my fault. I got subverted, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But so far, like, I feel like the 85, 86 is a really fair range for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the game, there's a lot of great about the game, but I don't want to dive too much into a lot of, like, critiquing, because otherwise I'll get really long-winded, because I am extra. I know about Bethesda. I'm very, very aware of that. But it's a good game. And, like, I spent the $30 to play it a few days earlier, and I feel like that was worth my money to do that.
Sure.
It's an amazing game for Game Pass. I am so glad that Xbox has a huge win with this one, because I feel like Game Pass really needed this.
They did.
We've talked about that. Bethesda being under their banner now, like, this is good for Bethesda. It's a game it's a big, massive game. It's a big, great RPG that I know many people are enjoying. There's more. I mean, there's more to come. The mods on the PC is going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
I again wish I had spent more time with it this weekend than I ended up spending time with it. But awesome for them to have a game that comes out that doesn't have, like, has some bugs, but not.
Man, that's one thing that I think is super impressive about it.
It's a pretty solid game in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, kudos, awesome. So yeah, honestly, if you haven't touched it, I highly recommend it. Even if you pick up Game Pass for a couple months, like, just to play this, it's worth it alone, because you'll put a lot of hours into it. And if you like games like No Man's Sky, if you like games like Mass Effect, and you want to combine those, I mean, that's a fucking recipe for success. So
yeah. No, I feel like this is if you're a fan of Bethesda games, you're gonna be right at home with this. If you're not a fan of Bethesda games and their RPGs, this game's not gonna change your opinion. Based on what I've played so far, now look, I understand, like, this is gonna be a lengthy game. Like Cuddles, I was on the main storyline for a little bit, and then I got sidetracked into side quests.
Yeah.
I'm on one right now where I infiltrated, like, a pirate fleet, and it's just been a fucking awesome side quest. I keep wanting to finish that, and, like, some of the missions are fucking dope. That's one of the things that I really like about this game is the mission structure of some of these things. They're very diverse. They're very different. They can all be played differently, and like, just exploring a planet in general, every mission, everything that you do, it behooves you to explore as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it encourages you to explore, because there are secrets fucking everywhere in this game. Mm-hmm. Going on to the planets, I think the side quests are better than the main. Here's the thing about the main story quest, and this is like, I think it took me about 25 hours into the game, and I hit a quest. I think it's called Into the Unknown. And it's a kind of like a 3-part quest that what's her name? Is it Sarah at the Constellation?
Yeah.
She'll give you, like, 3 things that you have to do, 3 quests you have to finish. And the last one is called Into the Unknown. And when you do that, that quest really kind of opens up the game, the story, the narrative even more. It's, without getting into spoilers, you're going to evolve as a character. And it really kind of opens up, and you kind of figure out, you kind of meet the who appear to be the main protagonists of this story. Like everyone that you've come across so far is, yeah, you have factions and they all have different ideologies, and some of them are going to be warring against one another, but there's always got to be an overarching like villain or something like that. And I don't know if that's what they are, but that's just the impression I got. But once you come across these folks and you kind of evolve as a character, the story really kind of gets engaging. Like it's really like, now it took 25 hours to like get through some of the main story and for it to really pick up. But once it got there, I was like, oh shit, okay, now things are getting real. So I mean, like, keep playing the main story, but I mean, but not to discredit the side quests, they are fucking really good. Especially the one where I think you join the UC SysDef and you go undercover into this pirate fleet. And dude, some of the shit that you're doing, you're constantly helping the fleet progress with their objective as you're reporting everything back to the UC SysDef, and you're just like, the quests that you go on and the stories that you go into, you're just like, fucking A, man. They're so good. Tone strikes me as the dude that wanted to master Blitzball and Final Fantasy just for the hell of it.
I actually hate that game except for the Blitzball, so you're kind of half right on that one. I can't stand that fucking antagonist in that game. The narrative is terrible in that game, but yeah, no, it's funny you say that. Yeah, I played a lot of Blitzball, so.
Carlos, I like how you can piss someone off and then you'll be in the space hours later and this guy comes back. there are some weird things going on. Like like I said, a Bethesda game they're usually very ambitious titles. They're very ambitious. There's branching storylines, branching dialogue, and sometimes you'll do something and you're like, I'm really surprised that these people aren't killing me yet. You know, I did a couple things to members of the fleet, and like I just openly started attacking their ships in space, even though I'm like their new rookie, their promising rookie. And I mean, I fucking took out a bunch of. I think I racked up like 30,000 in worth of bounties. And when I got back to the fleet's main base to go talk to him about progressing the story, someone stopped me at the gate and go, "Hey, you killed some of our own. You owe us some money." I was like, "Oh, like these guys just wouldn't drop me right here. Like here, pay 30,000." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's
so
like
I did that.
Cool.
Like, whatever. But no, like the missions are great. The structure is really good. It's like I said, if you've played a Bethesda game, you know how these side quests, these side stories are multiple chapters to get through them, and they're really well done. And exploring some of these areas is fun. Some of the planets are kind of like barren, and you and I talked about this before the show. Like, I just don't understand if you're not going to let me fly freely across the planet like in No Man's Sky. You know how you can just hop in your plane or your ship and just go wherever you want in the biome that you're in? Give me a fucking, like an ATV.
It's so weird that there is.
Give me a buggy to just drive across. You know, like, I mean, I got to hoof it 1,000, 1,500 meters, whatever it is, to get to the next objective. And, like, there's nothing between me and this place other than rocks and some, like, fucking, like, organic life or biological life or something that's just wandering about. It can be really kind of like blah, and I feel like that's the only weakness. Well, I mean, it's one of the few things that I dislike about the game is just how kind of boring it is moving from, even in a biome, just moving from one base or facility or structure to the next one. And then, obviously, the other thing I want to talk about, and the other thing that is a major gripe, and it's a major gripe for everybody, is the fucking UI and the map interface. The map,
God.
Like, look,
I forgot about. Yeah, thank you for
like,
bringing that up.
Look, man,
Jesus Christ.
And this isn't like Bethesda's fucking completely new to this. Like, Fallout had an effective map. Skyrim had a fucking awesome map. They know how to make a fucking map. Now, look, I get it. This is space, and there's much more room to cover. Dude, maneuvering this fucking map is a disaster.
Well, you can't just go into where you want to go. Like, even if you go in, you dive in 1 or 2, 3, you got to back out the same 5. You can't just close it right down.
It's not ideal.
Hell.
It's like it's probably my biggest gripe with the game. Even the encumbrance system, as annoying as it is to manage that, I've learned how to manage that. I shouldn't have to learn how to manage a fucking map. I should just be able to pull up the map, be like, look, man, I want to go to this star system over here. Let me create a favorites list of the places I know I want to go to. Like, there's times where I'm like, okay, I got to get back to New Atlantis. I got to get to the lodge. And I go in there and I'm like, I pull up the map. I'm like, fuck, I don't have any missions right now that take me to New Atlantis or to the lodge. So I got to go to the overall map and just kind of like, there's all these planets. I'm like, where the fuck am I going? Like, just give me a favorites tab of like, here's the lodge. Here's New Atlantis. Here's Neon. Go here. But it's like, what the fuck is this map? So that's the first thing they need to fix with this game is redo the map. Make that priority one. Redo the fucking map. Encumbrance be damned. Do the fucking map over. It's a mess. But going back to the things that I really do like, though, the story is engaging. The voice acting is really well done.
Yeah.
The character models. The game looks good in some instances, but like New Atlantis, when you walk around, sometimes it's just like, oh, some of these just does not look good.
Yeah, like it's weird because like you look at the water with the lily pads and some of the flora and fauna,
Yeah.
like that looks good, and then you look at the fucking tree, like what the fuck is that? And like
Yeah.
I don't know, I've had a thing about like trying to jetpack as high as I can go, of course. So I'm like walking around on top of the fucking trees, which is
Yeah,
kind of
you're being
weird.
that guy.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh no, the gunplay is solid. That's why I'm glad that they didn't have to implement something like a VAT system because it does feel good to play. The only thing I fucking wish they had in third person was the ability to switch shoulders. Yeah. That's like like dude, if you have a third person shooter, if you want to play it that way, give me a fucking. I need to be able to switch my shoulders. So I mean, yeah, and the other thing that I it irks me at times because it is a game that encourages exploration. Some of the missions that I've gone on, they're like, okay, look, you're trying to get into this facility. You gotta grab this item and escape the facility. You can go in guns blazing or stealthy. I'm like, I'm gonna go fucking stealthy, and I managed to get through it pretty stealthily. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, you're on to the last area. You escape, optional objective. Find a way around the checkpoint. And I'm like, oh fuck yeah, give me something. I gotta look for vents or something like that to get around the checkpoint. And they literally have a two markers on the screen for your objectives. One's like, go here to leave, or go here to find the optional path around the checkpoint. And you go over there and you find a vent. And you're just like, I could have found that if I just would have been exploring. I don't need you to hold my hand and be like, here's the optional path. If it's an optional objective, make me look for it.
Isn't that kind of ironic? And then the map sucks.
right. They're super like detailed, letting you know here's where you need to go.
Here's your vent.
Unless you want to know where to fly, we're not giving you shit. But like overall though, man, like I'm digging it. Like I loved Fallout 3 and Skyrim. Those are, in my opinion, I think those are Bethesda's best games today.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're I think they're phenomenal games.
Agree, yeah.
And whether or not this game hits those heights remains to be seen. I know what I'm getting in terms of gameplay, mission structure, RPG elements when it comes to a Bethesda game. I know what to expect. That's why I'm there. Mm-hmm. But it has to have a story. Skyrim had a fucking dope-ass story. Fallout 3 had a dope-ass story. This one starts off a little bit slow. Now it's getting engaging. If they can continue to throw me these fucking awesome missions and the story opens up, this is going to be a game I'm going to probably be playing for a long time.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, I mean, I think it's good. I actually think it's a really good game. I think it's a huge get for Game Pass. I think this is exactly what they needed. It's a big win for Microsoft and for Xbox. They needed something really big. Obviously, they've had a good year. They had Hi-Fi Rush, which was fucking dope, but then Redfall came and stumbled out of the gate and was a disaster. They needed something big for Game Pass, for the Xbox brand, for their fall lineup. They got it with this game.
Well, I mean, it's exciting to have, Bethesda now under their banner and to say we released Bethesda's next big new series on Game Pass and on Xbox exclusively, or PC as well too. It's pretty huge, and not only that, to be a really good game.
Yeah,
that's fucking awesome. So
for it to and again, we'll go back to give them shout out to Bethesda because man, they are known for putting out some buggy ass games.
And they know it too.
They know it too. They're very self-aware. But I will give them credit, man. Like other than I had an audio glitch the first hour where Vasco's rolling with you and you're going through that first facility and like he shot something, Vasco was firing, and then he killed him and then he stopped firing the animation, but all I could hear was a constant him shooting like through the audio, and I was just like, I'm walking around this facility trying to find stuff. He's just sitting there like, hey, but all you hear is this gun blasting. I'm just like, for fuck's sake.
That's funny.
But like, I haven't had any crashes. I haven't had any missions that I couldn't finish. By all accounts, this is a very polished game. Now look, the 30 frames per second on Series X I think it's a good 30 frames. Like, you can have a good 30 frame game.
Yes,
Destiny 2
you can.
was a phenomenal 30 FPS game especially for a first person shooter. Really well done. But like, the thing about this that I love the most, the ROG Ally. This is why I bought it, and it has not failed me. To be able to sit there and take Starfield on the go and have it run really well. I can hit 60 frames on the Ally in certain areas. Now, granted, I'm not playing at high settings, but when you're playing on a small screen, you don't need the 1080p in the high settings. Anything at like 720p or medium is going to look good on a small screen. And to be able to sit there and play that as a Play Anywhere title, fucking major bonus points. Like, that is, for me, dude, to have that companion, to be able to take it on the go and continue to play the story and explore stuff, fucking win, dude. That's a fucking win. Now, the only thing that irks me, dude, the game runs great on the Ally. My laptop right here, I can set that shit at low, and I'm not even getting 60 frames. For whatever reason. And I mean, unless you have like a really good PC, which I know there are people that do. I've seen the streams. There are people that have really good stuff. They're playing at like really high settings at 60 frames. I should be able to turn this bitch on low and get 60 FPS.
Nope.
It runs better. I'm not saying, and I get it, not everyone has issues on PC. I don't know what it is right now. This PC should be able to run this game at low settings at 60 FPS. It is garbage. And I went on to some of the forums. There's a lot of people saying it is just not very well optimized on PC. And you know, and I get that, and maybe that's something I address. But all I know is I can play on my little Ally the game at 60 FPS in most areas smoothly and without issue. They need to fucking work on this PC version. And I get it. Like I said, Carlos is playing on Ultra and he's have zero issues. That's great. You go on social media, read Reddit. There's not everyone's not having that type of experience. It's just really weird how it's like, and I guess there's some kind of a deal with AMD right now, where like even NVIDIA doesn't have like DLSS like support. Like there's some issues going on with it. Like it's just not a very well optimized game for a lot of PCs. Hopefully they can get that figured out. But like, yeah, to be able to sit there and play it on the Ally and have better performance than my PC, that's really weird.
That's random.
It's very weird. But and we want to get you guys to go thoughts. I don't know if anybody wanted to call and talk about that. If not, we're going to move on to the next